Did you know that this Japanese card is outperforming the English market? The Dead Man's Game OR event in Japanese is completely flipping the script in the One Piece market. In a PSA 10, the Japanese version is fetching nearly 33% more than its English counterpart. And the reason why seems pretty obvious at first, with the English population being more than double than the Japanese. But that raises an even more interesting question. Why is the pop size so much lower for what is such an iconic card, immortalizing one of the coolest Zoro moments in the entire story? And to answer that, we first need to understand what makes DMG different. Its playability. Unlike similar cards like Gum Giant, DMG isn't leader locked. That means it can be used in any green deck, and is currently an absolute staple across the modern green meta. So for max rarity players, they could be running anywhere from 1 to 4 copies in any single deck. So it's pretty reasonable to assume that across English and Japanese, the existing supply has largely accommodated the player base, as opposed to the collector base. But for most of One Piece's lifespan, I would argue that outside of Japan, the majority of the collector base has favoured English over Japanese, hence why you may have seen more PSA submissions till now. However, more recently, with English product becoming scarcer and more expensive, many Western collectors have turned to Japanese as the more accessible option. And in the case of DMG, that may have created the perfect storm. A new influx of collector demand for a supply that was constrained by the card's playability and a previous lack of Western interest, potentially driving the price spike we see here. But surely over time, the Japanese population will catch up and prices will level out again. I'm not so sure personally. With OP12 being nearly a year old and DMG still being relevant in the existing meta, I would personally speculate that the majority of the ungraded supply is unlikely to be in mint condition, potentially limiting the future population growth of DMG. But that's just my theory. What do you guys think? Is there a simpler explanation for all of this?